Good morning, everyone. Hope we're all doing well. It's Friday, and it is almost time for the weekend. Even though the weekend is kind of like the weekday these days, because it's all melding into one. Anyway, let's get started with chapter 3. Sorry, chapter 43 today. Why am I reading 3 of Holes? We finished chapter 42 yesterday, and Stanley had an idea. He wanted to go back to Camp Green Lake to dig one more hole. Hopefully you can remember what that hole is that he wants to dig, and we're going to carry on. So the last chapter ended with Zero waking up, and he's like, "What?" Zero raised up his head. "What is it? You want to dig one more hole?" Stanley asked him. We weren't always homeless, Zero said. I remember a yellow room. How old were you when you, Stanley started to ask, but he couldn't find the right words. Moved out? I don't know. I must have been real little, because I don't remember much. I don't remember moving out. I remember standing in a crib with my mother singing to me. She held my wrists and made me clap my hands together. She used to sing that song to me. That one you sang. It was different, though. Zero spoke slowly, as if searching his brain for memories and clues. And then later, I know we lived on the street, but I don't know why we left the house. I'm pretty sure it was a house, not an apartment. I know my room was yellow. It was late in the afternoon, and they were resting in the shadow of the thumb. They had spent the morning picking onions and putting them in the sack. It didn't take long, but long enough so that they had to wait another day before heading down the mountain. They wanted to leave at the first hint of daylight, so they'd have plenty of time to make it to Camp Green Lake before dark. Stanley wanted to be sure he could find the right hole. Then they would hide by it until everyone went to sleep. They would dig for as long as it seemed safe, and not a second longer. And then, treasure or no treasure, they'd head up the dirt road. If it was absolutely safe, they'd try to steal some food and water from the camp kitchen. "I'm good at sneaking in and out of places," Zero had said. "Remember," Stanley had warned, "the door to the rec room squeaks." Now, he lay on his back, trying to save his strength for the long days ahead. He wondered what happened to Zero's parents, but he didn't ask. Zero didn't like answering questions. It was better to let him talk just when he felt like it. Stanley thought about his own parents. In her last letter, his mum was worried that they might be evicted from their apartment because the smell of burning sneakers. They could easily become homeless as well. Again, he wondered if they'd been told that he ran away from camp. Were they told that he was dead? An image appeared in his head of his parents hugging each other and crying. He tried not to think about it. An image appeared in his head of his parents hugging each other and crying. He tried not to think about it. Instead, he tried to recapture the feelings he'd had the night before. The inexplicable feeling of happiness, the sense of destiny. But those feelings didn't return. Now, he just felt scared. The next morning, they headed down the mountain. They dunked their caps in the waterhole before putting them on their heads. Zero had held the shovel, and Stanley carried the sack, which was crammed with onions and 3 jars of water. They left the pieces of the broken jar on the mountain. "This is where I found the shovel," Stanley said, pointing out a patch of weeds. Zero turned and looked up to the top of the mountain. That's a long way." "You are light," Stanley said. "You'd already thrown up everything that was inside your stomach." He shifted the sack from one shoulder to the other. It was heavy. He stepped on a loose rock and slipped, and then fell hard. And the next thing he knew, he was sliding down the steep side of the mountain. He dropped the sack, and the onions spilled around him. He slid into a patch of weeds and grabbed onto a thorny vine. The vine ripped out the earth, but slowed him enough so that he was able to stop himself. "You all right?" Zero asked from above. Stanley groaned as he pulled a thorn out of the palm of his hand. "Yeah," he said. He was all right. He was worried more about the jars of water. Zero climbed down after him, retrieving the sack along the way. Stanley pulled some thorns out of his pants' legs. The jars had not broken. The onions had protected them, like styrofoam packaging. "Glad you didn't do that when you were carrying me," Zero said. They'd lost about a third of the onions, but recovered many of them as they continued down the mountain. When they reached the bottom, the sun was just rising above the lake. They walked directly towards it. Soon they stood on the edge of a cliff, looking down on the dry lake bed. Stanley wasn't sure, but he thought he could see the remains of the Mary Lou in the distance. "You thirsty?" Stanley asked. "No," said Zero. "How about you?" "No," Stanley lied. He didn't want to be the first one to take a drink. Although they didn't mention it, it had become a kind of a challenge between him and Zero. They climbed down into the frying pan. It was a different spot from where they had climbed up. They eased themselves down from one ledge to another and let themselves slide in other places, being especially careful with the sack. Stanley could no longer see the Mary Lou, but headed in what he thought was the right direction. As the sun rose, so did the familiar haze of heat and dirt. "You thirsty?" Zero asked. "No," said Stanley. "Because you have 3 full jars of water," said Zero. "I thought maybe it was getting too heavy for you. If you drink some, it will lighten your load." "I'm not thirsty," said Stanley, but if you want a drink, I'll give you some." "I'm not thirsty," said Zero. "I was just worried about you." Stanley smiled. "I'm a camel," he said. They walked for what seemed like a very, very long time, and still never came across the Mary Lou. Stanley was pretty sure they were heading in the right direction. He remembered that when they left the boat, they were headed towards the setting sun. Now they were headed towards the rising sun. He knew the sun didn't rise and set exactly in the east and west, more southeast and southwest, but he wasn't sure how that made a difference. His throat felt as if it was coated with sandpaper. "You sure you're not thirsty?" he asked. "Not me," said Zero. His voice was dry and raspy. When they did finally take a drink, they agreed to do it at the same time. Zero, who was now carrying the sack, set it down and took out 2 jars, giving one to Stanley. They decided to save the canteen for last, since it couldn't accidentally break. "You will," said Zero. They clinked the jars together, and each, watching the other, poured the water into their stubborn mouths. Zero was the first to spot the Mary Lou, maybe a quarter of a mile away, and just a little off to the right. They headed for it. It wasn't even noon yet when they reached the boat. They sat against the shady side and rested. I don't know what happened to my mother," Zero said. "She left and never came back." Stanley peeled an onion. She couldn't always take me with her," Zero said. "Sometimes she had to do things by herself." Stanley had the feeling that Zero was explaining things to himself. "She'd tell me to wait in a certain place for her when I was like real little. I had to wait in small areas, like on a porch or a step or a doorway. Now, Don't leave here until I get back, she'd say. I never liked it when she left. I had a stuffed animal, a little giraffe, and I'd hug it the whole time she was gone. And when I got bigger, I was allowed to stay in bigger areas, like stay on this block or don't leave the park. But even then, I still held Jaffe. Stanley guessed Jaffe was the name of the giraffe. And then one day, she didn't come back, Zero said. His voice suddenly sounded hollow. I waited for her at Laney Park. Laney Park, said Stanley. I've been there. I've been there. You know the playscape? Asked Zero. Yeah, I've played on it. I waited there for more than a month, said Zero. You know that tunnel you can crawl through between the slide and the swinging bridge? That's where I slept. They ate 4 onions. They ate 4 onions apiece and drank about half a jar of water. Stanley stood up and looked around. Everything looked the same in every direction. When I left camp, I was heading straight toward Big Thumb, he said. I saw the boat off to the right, so that means we have to turn a little to the left. Zero was lost in thought. What? Oh, okay, he said. They headed out. It was Stanley's turn to carry the sack. Some kids had a birthday party, Zero said. I guess it was about 2 weeks after my mother left. There was a picnic table next to the playscape, and balloons were tied to it. The kids looked to be the same age as me. One girl said hi and asked me if I wanted to play. I wanted to. I really did, but I didn't. I knew I didn't belong at that party in the park. And even though it was their playscape, even though it wasn't their playscape, there was this one mother who kept staring at me like I was some kind of monster. And then later, a boy asked me if I wanted a piece of cake. But then that same mother told me to go away. She told all the kids to stay away from me. So I never got the piece of cake. I ran away so fast, I forgot Jaffe. Did you ever find him? It? For a moment, Zero didn't answer. Then he said, he wasn't real. Stanley thought again about his own parents, how awful it would be for them to never know if he was alive or dead. He realized that was how Pax must have felt, not knowing what happened to his own mother. He wondered why Zero never mentioned his father. Hold on, Zero said, stopping abruptly. We're going the wrong way. No, this is right, said Stanley. You were heading to Big Thumb when you saw the boat off to your right, said Zero. That means we should have turned right when we saw the boat, when we left the boat. You sure? Zero drew a diagram in the dirt. Stanley still wasn't sure. We need to go this way, Zero said, first drawing a line on the map and then heading that way himself. Stanley followed. It didn't feel right to him, but Zero seemed really sure. Sometime in the middle of the afternoon, a cloud drifted across the sky and blocked out. Zero stopped and held out his arm to stop Stanley too. Listen, Zero whispered. Stanley didn't hear anything. They continued walking very quietly, and Stanley began to make out the faint sounds of Camp Green Lake. They were still too far away to see the camp, but they could hear a blend of indistinctive voices. And as they got closer, he occasionally could hear Mr. Sir's distinctive bark. They walked slowly and quietly, aware that sounds travel in both directions. They approached a cluster of holes. Let's wait here until they go in, said Zero. Stanley nodded. He checked to make sure there was nothing living in it, and then climbed down into a hole. Zero climbed into the one next to him. Despite having gone the wrong way for a while, it hadn't taken them nearly as long as Stanley had expected. Now, they just had to wait. The sun cut through the cloud, and Stanley felt its rays beating down on him. But soon, more clouds filled up the sky, shading Stanley and his hole. He waited until he was certain the last of the campers had finished for the day. And then he waited a little longer. As quietly as possible, he and Zero climbed up out of their holes and crept towards the camp. Stanley held the sack in front of him, cradled in his arms, instead of over his shoulder, to keep the jars from clanking against one another. A wave of terror rushed over him when he saw the compound, the tents, the rec room, the warden's cabin under the two oak trees. The fear made him dizzy. He took a breath, summoned his courage, and continued. "That's the one," he whispered, pointing out the hole where he'd found the golden tube. It was still about 50 yards away, but Stanley was pretty sure it was the right hole. There was no need to risk going any closer. They climbed down into adjacent holes and waited for the camp to fall asleep. We're going to stop on chapter 44, and we're going to see how they get on with their digging on Monday. Okay. Right. I'm going to jump straight into the maths for today. As I always say, pause the video, just leave it, try the maths yourself, and then come and follow on with me, checking out the answers as well as you go. All the sheets that you need are uploaded to Class Dojo. You've got the worksheet, and you've got the sheet with the answers as well, so you can check yourself later as well. Anyway, I'm going to start looking at the maths. So let me just get this all set up again, and hopefully the quality will be a little bit better today. I know it was a little bit blurry yesterday and a little bit kind of pixelated. Just let me know how the quality is for you this morning, and I'll try and adjust as necessary. So yeah, let me just get set up. I'm trying with the American accent, Mrs. Hughes. I'm not very good at accents. Not very good at all. Oh, my microphone is breaking. Oh dear. Right, if this is being really noisy, just turn down your volume. I'm just trying to fix the microphone stand, so it might be making loads and loads of noise. Oh dear. Technical difficulties, eh? Oh, nearly there, nearly there. Right, that'll have to do. Let's turn that around. Oh, sorry. Okay. I hope you can all hear me there. There we go. Ah, Mr. Danilo, is that you? Just noticed the comments. Amazing. Lovely to see you. Or see your message at least. So Mr. Danilo said hi earlier on the chat. He is a spectacular music teacher, and he makes YouTube videos now and again with some of the lessons that he does. Go and check them out. Absolutely brilliant. And we never got to play some music together, did we, Mr. Danilo? Never. We never got the chance. We were always too busy working. Right. Okay. I hope everyone's with me. You've probably not had a chance to do it yet. I mean, it's still quite early, but if you want to do it along with me, that's fine. Just pause the video as you go. Right. Representing the whole representing the numbers on a place value chart. I'm not going to do that because that just involves me drawing my place value chart and filling in the dots. I think I'm ready to go ahead to the next step of the question because I know my numbers really well. If you want to draw a place value chart and draw your circles, go ahead. You can do that. I'm going to go straight to the actual boxes here because I already know what my numbers are going to look like. Okay, so let's have a look. 5 ones, 7 tenths, 0 hundredths, and 2 thousandths. The number one thing to do here is to always read the whole number first before you start writing anything. Okay, so 5 ones. I know that there's my 5 from yesterday. And it's a whole number. So after that now, after my decimal place, I'm going to have some parts. Let's just do that. There we go. And let's have a look. How many tenths do I have? Let's just remind myself of the order. It might be handy if you don't have this already. Write a place value grid and write these down. So you know exactly what order. So after your ones, you've got your tenths, hundredths, and thousands. Okay, so 7 tenths, there we go. 0 hundredths and 2 thousandths. And then you get the number 5.7. 0.629. Okay, I hope everyone got that. Next one, 7 ones, 0 tenths, 1 hundredth, and 3 thousandths. 7 ones, 0 tenths, 1 hundredth, and 3 thousandths. I'm checking the value as well. Sometimes a question won't have it in that order. Sometimes they might mix it round. So you can't make that mistake. It might say 7 ones, 0 tenths, 3 thousandths, and 1 hundredth. It will mix around the list that it's just given you and expect you to put them in the right position. So it's not always going to be in the right order. And the last one here, let's have a look. I'm going to just check those before I remove them. Let's have a look. 5 ones, 6 tenths, 7 hundredths, and 0 thousandths. They are all in the correct order. 5.670. You could also write that if you wanted to as 5.67 because the last digit has no value. So you can just get rid of it. Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong box. I missed that one. 7 ones, 0 tenths, 103,000. Then we've got this one, 5670. Okay, let's turn them into fractions. So, I wonder if I can get them all on screen together. Yes, I can. Wonderful. So, if I write down the number, 5.702. As a fraction, you should have already tried this. If you haven't, do it before I do it. Pause the video. We're going to have 5 and 702 thousandths. We know it's thousandths because the decimal value there ends in the thousandths column. Let's try the next one. We've got 0.629. That would be no holes. So actually, I don't even need to write that. I can just do a fraction. 629 thousandths. Next one, 7.013. That's going to be 7 holes and just 13 thousandths. Can you see how that 0, 1, 3, well, that tenths value, there's no value there. So it's just going to be, there's no point me writing 0, 1, 3 over 1,000. I can just write 7 and 13 thousandths. And the last one, 5.670. Now I have a choice here. I have a choice. I can either call it 5 and 670 over 1,000, or I can divide them by 10 and make it a little bit smaller. If I get rid of that 0 there, make it 10 times smaller, okay, on this side, I get 5 and 67 hundredths, okay, just by dividing that fraction by 10 to make it equivalent. Okay, writing the mixed numbers. Let's go nice and big here. Let's get as much as we can on the screen. There we go. I'm going to let you have a go. If you haven't done it yet, pause the video and I will start revealing it in a second. Okay, let's have a look. 4 and 514 thousandths. That should be nice and easy. 4.514. Next one, 6 and 320. 2.250. As we said earlier, the final value, the thousandths, there's nothing there. So you could actually get rid of that if you wanted to and just call it 2.25, which could be much neater to write. This next one, let's move this over. We've got 1 and 50 over 1,000. Well, let's do this in two ways. You could either actually write it. Oops, sorry. Now, check this out. You've got one whole. That's nice and easy. How many thousandths have you got? Remember, if it's a thousandth number, your decimal is going to have 3 numbers there. Your decimal value is going to have 3 digits. So if it's only 50 thousandths, you need to fill it up so that the 50 sits right there, okay? It can't be 1.50 because that's a tenth and a hundredth. You need the thousandths there as well. Now I can get rid of it. Now I can divide by 10 if I want to and make it 5 hundredths if I want to. 1.05. Because remember that last value was nothing. So I can get rid of that last value. Okay. I can't get rid of this nothing because that's holding the place. There needs to be something there so that the 5 can be put in the right place. Okay, next one. Same thing again. We have to check that value. So 4 point, and then here we've got 5 out of 1,000. I need my decimal number to be in the thousandths place. And how many thousandths do I have? Just 5. So that's going to be 0, 0, 5. 4.005. I cannot get rid of those zeros because they are holding the place ready for that 5 to be in the right place in the thousandths column. Okay. Okay. And the last one, no whole number here, just 2 thousandths. So that's going to be nothing, 0.0, tenth, 0, hundredth, 2 thousandth, 2 thousandth. You've got to pay attention to where your numbers are being placed. Okay. If you need to, pause that video. Pause the video. That's your rule. You've got your ones, you've got your tenths, your hundredths, and your thousandths. Okay. Right, moving on. Make sure you got those. Oh, I'm not sounding too healthy, am I? Goodness me. Right. Mo is placing decimal numbers on a number line. We did this yesterday and a few days before. It's a similar type of question. Now we just need to be aware of the thousandths. So let's just do this together. Again, if you haven't done it, off you go. Can I move this across? Okay, so let's have a look at the values that we've got. We're going to draw an arrow from each number to its position. I'm just going to label them because my arrows are going to get a bit messy because I can't use a ruler here. My iPad is nearly dead. Okay. You don't need to type that. That'll just waste more battery, Ollie. Okay, 0.532. Well, let's have a look. On this end, let's put my little pen up there. On this end, we've got 0.53. And on this end, we've got 0.54. So I know that 532, well, hang on a minute. Think about the scale this time. What's that scale going up in? Well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You've got 10 gaps, 10 jumps to get from 0.53 to 0.54. Have we moved up a whole number? No, we haven't. Have we moved up a whole tenth? No, we haven't. There's still 0, still 5. Have we moved up a whole hundredth? Yes. It's gone from 5.3 to 5.4. So that means the gaps are going to be our thousandths. So it's going to be 0.53 at the end. Then you're going to have 0.531, 0.532, 533, 534, 535, 536, 537, 538, 0.539. And then you get, after your 9, you get to your new hundredth. So we've established that scale. Now, where do we put them? So 0.53 is going to go here. 0.535, 531, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to go there. Easy so far. 0.538 is going to go here because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 thousandths. Here we go. There they are. And 539 over 1,000. Well, we know that's 0.539, which is going to be right there. That's actually quite a simple one. Once you've worked out the scale, that should be quite easy to do because you're simply counting up in thousandths. Look at the thousandths in each number, in each value, and then you'll notice you can just count up and find them on that number line. That works lovely. Okay, what number is the arrow pointing to? And you got to write it as a decimal and a fraction. If you haven't done it, off you go. Let's have a look. How have we got from 1.25 to 1.26? Well, the only thing that's changed, I'm looking at my number here, looking at my number here. Have the wholes changed? No. Have the tenths changed? No. The hundredths have changed now. Do you notice how it's the same scale as before? We're going up in thousandths because when you get to the end of your thousandths, when you get to the 1.259, sorry, 1.259, it's going to get to 1.26. So let's have a look. The number here, let's work this out. 1.250. Let's just add a 0 on the end. 1.251. 1.252. 1.253. I'm going to take it nice and slow. Count along with me if you want. 1.254. 1.255. 1.256. 1.257. So that is there. We've got to 1.257. So there's my answer as a decimal. And I can prove it's right because if I keep going, I get 1.258, 1.259. And what comes after the 9th? Well, takes me up to the next one, which is the next 10th. Okay. Okay. Let's have a look. As a fraction, sorry guys, I'm sounding really, really horrible today, aren't I? 1.25. Does it give me space there? Which is very strange. Didn't actually give me space to put a whole number. So maybe it wants it as an improper fraction. So if I had a whole 1,000 there, I could just put it on here. I could make it an improper fraction. Okay. Right. Let's have another look at the one below it. I'll get two up. So we can do two in one go. I'm going to give you a few seconds to do this one. Have a little look. And I'm going to just quickly get ready. Okay, are we ready? Are we ready to go? Let's have a look. So, you should notice again. Okay, you should notice again that we've got 3.04 on this end. After 10 jumps, you get to 3.05. What's changed? The hundredth has changed by one place. By one, it's increased by one. So that means the increments here, the steps, need to be thousandths. So what should it be? Well, 3.04, 3.041, 3.042. That was a nice easy one. 3.042. Let's have a look at the next one. We've got a fraction. So it needs to be 3 wholes. I'm just going to write this as a mixed number. 3 wholes and 42 thousandths. Let's have a look. If I'm going to add that to be a mixed, an improper fraction, because it hasn't given me space to do my mixed number, we should be looking at, well, 3 wholes that are made up of thousandths would be 3,000. So as a mixed number, it might be 3,042. Okay. We'll have to check the answers on the answer sheet to see if they're expecting a mixed number, 3 and 42 thousandths, or an improper fraction, 3,042 thousandths. We'll check that in a moment. Let's go to C at the bottom here. 9.29, 9.2, 9.3. Now, what's happened here? The decimal value, 29, has jumped from 29 to 3. Now, imagine there's a 0 on the end here, that 0 that we took away earlier. It's actually gone from 29 hundredths to 30 hundredths. So, again, it's the same thing. The value has only gone up in hundredths. So it's taken you to the next tenth. Afterwards, it's going to be 9.31 and so on and so on. In between these two numbers, you've got your thousandths again. So let's have a look. 9.29, 9.291, 9.292, 9.293, 9.294, 9.295, 9.296, 9.297, 9.298, 9.299. 9.299. You're so close to 9.3, 9.30. If you imagine it as like 2930, 299, 3. Let's have a look. How many holes do we have? We've got 9 holes and 299 thousandths. So as a mixed number, that's correct. They've only given us space for an improper fraction again. So it's going to be how many thousandths? If we've got 9 holes already and they're made up of thousandths, well, that's going to be 9,000, isn't it? So it's going to be 9,299 thousandths. If you're not sure about this part, okay, come back on Monday and we'll have another little look at that. You can play around with it at home as well. Just give yourself a random decimal number like this. If I wanted to just test myself, I could do something like, I could just give myself 4.511. Let me make that decimal place a bit quicker. And I could try and turn that myself into a fraction. Well, I know that it's 4 wholes and 511 thousandths. If I wanted to turn that into a mixed number, well, how many thousandths do I have? I've got 4 groups of thousands. So that's going to be 4,000. And then what have I got left? 511 over 1,000. It's as simple as that, okay? This is how many of these you've got in total. So I've got 4 thousands and the extra bits on top. Okay, we'll come back to that, don't worry. Okay, let's go to the next one. This should be quite nice. I really love a question that involves patterns and sequences, because you cannot, once you've found the pattern, you can't really go wrong. The hardest thing is finding the pattern. So let's have a look if we can see the pattern. Some of you might have found it. Let's see if anyone can type in what the rule is. What is the rule that you think is happening as we move across this grid? I'm going to start to complete it. I want to know what the rule is. So I know I've got 57 thousandths, 58 thousandths, 59 thousandths, 60 thousandths, 61 thousandths, 62 thousandths, 63, and 64. Ooh, doesn't want to let me do that. So that's what's happening on the top row. What's the rule? What's happening? Who can explain? It's increasing. It's not going in ones. Good guess. It's not going in ones. If it was going in ones, that would be just counting normal whole numbers, wouldn't it? Mrs. Hughes got it. She's not revealing it, though. She's not going to tell you. We're going to see if anyone's got the rule. Ollie, you're almost correct. It's going up in something, but it's not going up in ones. What is getting bigger each time? This should be really, really easy because of the place value. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Oh. The rule is it's increasing the fraction. What fraction? Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Crisp. You've got an increase in a thousandth every time. It goes from 57 thousandths to 58 thousandths, 59. So it's increasing in 1,000th. Okay. If I get my lovely little flip here, if I write this as a decimal here, so I've got 0.057. There it is. All I'm doing, so my next one, 58 over 1,000 is going to be 0.058. I can see that pattern. What's happening? I'm just going to increase the thousandths. That's all I'm doing. The next one, let's increase the thousandths. 59. 0.059, 59 thousandths. The next one, well, what happens now? When I get to the end of my 59 here, then it goes back to 0. Because we know that when you get to 9, it's back to 0, and now I have to go to the next 100th. But I've still just only gone up 1,000. 0.060. Next one, 0.061. And I know that it's correct. Remember what I said earlier? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. My 61 thousandths finishes there in the thousandths column. And I could keep going. 0.063, 0.064, and so on and so on. That is a lovely pattern going up in thousandths each time. Ooh, this looks good. This looks like a good one. Who's got this one? Ooh, this board of mine. There we go. Okay, we'll do A and B together, and then I'll scroll down very soon. Okay, what have we got? What have we got here? Let's think back to our previous lessons on adding fractions. Can I add them? Can I add them up? Can I add them up? Come on, tell me if I can do that right now. Can I add them and put an answer in there straight away? No, no one's going to answer me. Okay, I'll answer myself. I cannot add them up at the moment. Well, I could. We'll talk about that in a moment. But using the rule that I know from my previous lesson, all the denominators are the same. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. All the denominators are different. So I know, based on what I've learned previously, I can't add them up if I've got different denominators. So what I might start to do now is turn them all to be the same, which is going to take me some time. But then I remembered about place value. If I think that I can't add them up and I need to make all the denominators the same, I can do that and I would get the right answer. But because I'm dealing with tenths, if it was any other fraction, if it was like 7/9 and 3/5 and 9 something else, that would be the strategy that I have to use. However, because I'm dealing with tenths, hundredths, and thousandths, I already know where the value goes. So it's going to be super, super easy. And I can see that Regan's got it already. I've got no holes. Okay. And I'm writing a decimal. That's what it says in the question. I've got 7/10. I've got 300ths. I've got 9 thousandths. Okay. You don't always need to convert them to be the same denominator because we're talking about our place values here. Tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Any other fraction, like I just said, you will need to do that. But for this example, you don't. Let's go to the next one. 9/10. There's my 9/10. Easy. 7/100. There's my 7/100. And 1,000. There's my 1,000. Okay, there we go. 0.971. And let's do the 3 here together. Okay, 7/100. Now, remember what I was saying earlier at the beginning of this session? Questions might try and trick you by mixing up the order. Okay, that's what's happened here. Have a look at it. If I put 0.791, that'll be completely wrong because remember my value? I've got ones, point. So my ones, my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. So I need to check now that the order is correct. So I have no ones. I'm happy with that. Point what? Where's my tenths? There's my tenths. They're not in order. So I've got 9/10, 7/100, and 1,000. You've got to really, really check the order there. This one, let's have a look. Got no ones. I've got 2/10. That's next. How many hundredths do I have? I have no hundredths. So I'm going to put that in the hundredths column to hold that place. And I've got 7,000. 0.207. And let's have a look at the last one. 6/100 and 3,000. So I've got no whole numbers. So 0. I've got no tenths. I've got 6/100 and I've got 3,000. 0.063. Okay. Hope that makes sense. And we're on the last 2 questions now. Eva has 12 plain counters. She makes numbers using the place value chart. So what that's saying basically is with just 5 counters with nothing on them, she could put them into this place value chart any way she wants. So just using 5. So let's have a look. There's 5 numbers that Eva can make. Well, I could put them all in here. And one of her numbers is just going to be 5. Alternatively, she could spread them out. She could put 1 in there, 1 in there, 1 in there, 1 in there. That's 4. Let's put the extra one in here. Now that's going to be 1.211. Let's put a comma in between these numbers. What else could she do? She could put them out in different ways. Maybe she could put them all. Maybe she puts 4 of them here and then puts 1 in there. So that leaves her with 0.014. She's just putting those 5 counters wherever she wants. Let's do another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.230. I could put a 0 there, or I could just leave that blank, 0.23, because it's at the end, doesn't matter. It's not holding the place for anything after it. And so on. You can go ahead with that and whatever numbers you think that Eva could make. This is where it gets trickier. What is the greatest and smallest number she could make with all 12 counters? Oh, do you know what? Sorry, I was just using 5. Why was I using 5 counters? Goodness me. So let me just revise exactly what I just did. That was just me not concentrating. Thank you, Regan. 12, isn't it? Not 5. Maybe I was trying to be lazy. Okay, so 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. So I can use 12 of them. So I've got 2.513. And so on. I'm not going to go through all that again. I just use 5. I don't know why. Where did I get 5 from? I saw the 5 there. There's a perfect teaching point there. If you're not concentrating, you're going to make mistakes. So what is the greatest and the smallest number? Well, this should be quite easy. I know that the biggest value on this place value grid is 1s. 1s have the most value. So if I put all 12 counters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If I put all 12 in there, that's going to give me 12. 12 point nothing, just 12. And the smallest, well, what's the smallest value? Easy, the thousandths. If I put them all in the thousandths, that will give me 0.012. Because it finishes in the thousandths, I've got 12 thousandths. Okay. When you have a question about greatest and smallest, just think about your values. Which is the greatest value and which is the smallest? Okay, last question. I love this question. Explain why. Explain what you think. This is really, really clever. So if you haven't had a go, again, pause the video and I'm going to go through what I think. I might not write it all, but I might just tell you. So Whitney is representing 0.536. And she's done that. Let's just have a look. I'm going to just talk through what I'm looking at here. She's done her 50 hundredths. She's done 18 thousandths and 18 thousandths. Okay, so if I want to really work this out, 5, I'm not even going to go to this. I'm not even going to try and tell you if she's correct or not yet, because I need to actually do a bit of calculating myself. Okay. 5. Now this 5 is a tenth, 5 tenths. So why is he written, or why is Whitney written 50 over 100? Can I get that to be a tenth? Has she made the right choice? I could divide by 10. I could divide by 10, and that could be 5. Okay. Okay. So 50 over 100 is the same as 5 tenths. So her tenth is correct. Now, 36 thousandths is what I'm looking at. 3 tenths and 6 thousandths. He's got 18 and 18. What is 18 and 18? Let's have a look. Let's do a little calculation. 8 plus 8 is 6. 36. Sorry, 16. I'm getting ahead of myself thinking about 36. And 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. 36. 30. So 18 and 18 thousandths is 36 thousandths. Huh. Let's have a look. So 5 tenths, which I figured out she had. Is she correct? Yes, she is. Okay. She's done it in a very unusual way, but I've broken it down and I've explained it. Okay. So my explanation is what I've just been explaining. It's what I've scribbled on here. All these calculations are my explanation. Okay. In my writing, I would probably just write Whitney has put 18,000s and 18,000s together to make 36,000s. And she's written 5/10 as 50 hundredths. Can we partition it another way? Yes, we can. Let's have a look. What if I do... I might try this. Let's do it the simplest way. So she's got 5/10. She's got 3 hundredths. And she's got 6 thousandths. That could be one way you could partition it. Okay. If there's another way, go ahead, write it down. Come up with a few different ways if you want. Try and be clever. Try and be clever with it. Right. We've reached the end of lesson 5 of the home learning. And what we're going to do, we're going to just take a little break. I like it. That's a nice way of doing it. 5/10 and 36 thousandths, just straight away, mash them together. Okay. Anything you're not sure of, just rewind, check it out again. No trouble at all. We'll be back on Monday. Actually, no, on Monday, I'll be with the children in school who are coming to school, the key worker children. So that means I won't be able to make a live video. But what I'll try and do, I'll try and record something over the weekend to upload on the Monday. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to try and re-upload the art that I did. Basically, the art I did yesterday, I've already filmed it. I was looking at using your drawings, have a little bit more life to them by creating a 3D. So I did, in the video that I will upload, you will have a model of a row of houses. And I even tried it with a car, a little small car, which didn't come out very nicely. But it's just about using perspective and vanishing points. So check that out later. Hopefully I will upload today. And we'll go from there. Sorry, I didn't realize I can't see. There we go. I think that's it for now. Have a great weekend, everyone. And I will see you on Tuesday live. But I will upload some videos and upload some things on Monday. Okay. Bye. Look after each other. Wash your hands.